toe. How much longer are we going to do this? That's what Meri said, sitting across from Kody, her fingers clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles were white. He blinked twice, almost bewildered, as if he hadn't quite heard her correctly. But she said it again more slowly this time. How much longer? You could literally watch the control drain from his face, because this wasn't the quiet, agreeable Meri he was used to. This was a woman who had finally realized she'd spent years negotiating peace treaties with someone who never intended to play fair. Kody laughed, the way people do when they're nervous and cornered. "You're overreacting again," he said, trying to sound calm and in charge. "You always take things so personally." But this time, Meri didn't even flinch. She just said, "I'm done taking things personally. I'm taking them seriously." Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. Today's deep dive is one we've all been waiting for the moment. Kody Brown's favorite manipulation tactic finally backfired. His so-called power play. It just crumbled. And Meri, well, she finally broke free. But before we get into the scene that shattered Kody's whole delusion of control, I have to say something. There's been this wild rumor circulating online that Meri only stayed for so long because of some behind-the-scenes deal with TLC, like she was being paid to act as if she still loved Kody. Let me be crystal clear. There is absolutely no evidence of that. None. It's just another one of those AI-generated videos with cartoon faces and fake court documents. Don't be fooled by the clickbait. Anyway, let's get back to the day things really began to unravel. Kody believed he still had her under his spell of spiritual authority. He thought she'd continue to play nice, continue to defend him to the cameras, and continue to pretend like they were working on things. But the thing about guys like Kody is that they always underestimate the quiet ones. Meri had absorbed every insult, every public humiliation, every backhanded joke about her place in the family for years. But when Kody started using Coyote Pass as his latest pressure point, dangling her share of the land like a carrot, making a contingent on her devotion, something inside her finally snapped. Her close friend Genoa, low-key truth whisper, put it most eloquently. It says time for you to end the nice girl era. It's not benefiting you. It's only benefiting him. And that line stuck. Because nice had become a survival mechanism for Meri, a mechanism she no longer needed. So that day when Kody tried to negotiate the terms of how they'd split the property, while also hinting she'd owe him gratitude just for being included, Meri didn't cry. She didn't storm out. She didn't even raise her voice. She simply said, quietly, "You do not control me." And Kody, he laughed for about half a second, and then he realized she wasn't kidding. Because that was the first time in over 20 years that Meri Brown spoke not with fear, but with freedom. And that's where everything started to change. The next morning, the Arizona sun hit the empty lots of Coyote Pass like a spotlight on everything that had gone wrong. Batland was supposed to be a symbol of their togetherness, a shared hope for the future. But now, it was just a war zone of broken promises. Meri stood there with her hands in her pockets, staring at the land Kody had once promised would finally unite the family. She whispered to herself, "Together, for what? To watch it all fall apart." Because that's what it had become, Kody's personal game board. Every lot, every line drawn in the dirt, was another move in his power play. And on that day, Meri was officially done being one of his pawns. Kody arrived in his truck, getting out with that same swagger he always has. The kind of swagger that only works when everyone around you is too afraid to call you out. But today, that swagger seemed a little forced. He started in, "Well, I've been thinking, maybe we can renegotiate how we're splitting this. Because you haven't been contributing to the family fund lately." Meri cut him off, her voice colder than the wind. "Stop right there. I know exactly what you're doing, Kody." He blinked, trying to hide his annoyance. "What's that supposed to mean? Amise, you think you can guilt me into submission?" Again, the wind whistled between them. For a moment, the only sound was the crunch of gravel under her boots. Hey besties, back again. This part right here. This is where Kody's entire power fantasy begins to crumble. You see, Coyote Pass was never just about land, it was leverage. He used it to control every emotional and financial decision in that family. But what happens when your last bargaining chip is no longer valuable to the person you were trying to control? Meri wasn't interested in being grateful anymore. She was interested in being done. When he tried to talk over her, she didn't budge. She just said, calm and clear, "I'm not fighting for land, Kody. I'm fighting for my peace, and it's not for sale." The look on his face, pure disbelief. Because in Kody's world, everyone and everything has a price. But Meri, she had finally found her worth. And that's the one thing he never saw coming. Later, back in her car, Meri left herself a voice note. Was almost like a vow. No more waiting for permission. No more defending what doesn't defend me. That single sentence, that quiet, personal decision was about to set off the biggest emotional domino effect in the Brown family since Christine walked away. And what happens next changes everything. Meri didn't make a public announcement. She didn't call a family meeting or post a dramatic statement. She just quietly started packing one afternoon. There was no screaming match, no dramatic breakdown for the cameras. Just the quiet, methodical sound of packing tape, the closing of boxes, and the folding of memories into silence. The home she'd lived in, the one that once felt like part of a grander dream, now felt like a museum of everything she'd lost, trying to keep that dream alive. She paused in front of a picture on the wall. It was one of the old family photos, with everyone smiling, Kody standing tall in the center, and the wives clustered around him like planets orbiting their sun. She stared at it for a long, long time. And then, very slowly, she took it down. Hi besties, this right here is where real life happens. It's the goodbye that isn't loud, but is always final. For Meri, this wasn't just about leaving a man. It was about leaving the version of herself that waited around to be chosen. In the next scene we imagine, Kody shows up, sees the boxes and lets out an awkward laugh, the kind people use to cover up rising panic. So, what's all this? You moving or something? Meri doesn't even look up from what she's doing. Something like that. He tries to play it off as a joke. You're not serious. We've had fights before, Meri. You always calm down. But this time, her silence was the only answer he needed. Because there's that one moment, that split second when the energy flips. When the person you thought you controlled just stops responding. That's the moment you realize you've already lost them. Kody leaned against the doorframe, his voice turning sharp and cutting. You think you can survive without me? Meri finally met his gaze. Beans, surviving without you for years. You're just now noticing. The camera would have caught at that flicker of panic in his eyes. The sudden, terrifying realization that his go-to scapegoat was no longer playing her part. This wasn't the goodbye Kody expected. It wasn't a dramatic scene or a messy fight. It was an ending wrapped in quiet dignity. Because when a woman stops begging to be heard, it means she's already moved on in ways no man can follow. Meri closed the last box, sealed it shut, and whispered to herself, "This time, I'm not looking back." The front door clicked shut behind her quietly, but permanently. And in that silence, something stronger than anger emerged. Freedom. The news didn't explode. It spread in whispers. Janelle found out first, then Christine, then Robin. By the time Kody finally acknowledged it, everyone already knew. Meri was gone. But there was no shock, there was understanding. Because deep down, every single one of them knew this day was coming. Janelle described it perfectly on a late-night phone call with Christine. She was holding on to a version of him that doesn't exist anymore. Christine let out a long breath. Anymore. I don't know if he ever existed. They both laughed on because it was funny, but because it's what you do when the truth finally stops hurting. Hey besties, welcome back. So, this is where the dynamic truly shifts. These parts. The family's reaction tells us everything we've been wondering for months. Kody, of course, tried to control the narrative. He told the cameras, Meri's just taking some time for herself. We're still spiritually connected. But viewers saw right through it. His eyes didn't match his words. He looked angry, not heartbroken. Behind the scenes, sources say Kody was furious that Meri didn't consult him before leaving. That's what really got to him, not the loss of the relationship, but the loss of control. Meanwhile, Robin tried to play her usual peacemaker role, calling out to Meri in her gentle, passive way on TV. "Meri, maybe we can all talk about this. Kody still cares about you." Meri's response was brief, calm, and final. "I don't need him to care about me anymore. I care about me." That single line echoed through their entire universe. Christine, ever the pragmatist, posted a cryptic quote online. No words, just a picture that said, "The day you stop chasing peace outside of yourself is the day you find it." Thing. Everyone knew exactly what she meant. And Janelle, she said nothing at all. But the smile she wore at her next public appearance spoke volumes. The women who once built their world around Kody's idea of leadership were now quietly deconstructing it, piece by piece. For years, Kody played the role of the man in charge, the patriarch with the plan, the spiritual head. But now, he looks more like a man watching his kingdom crumble in slow motion. Each woman who walked away didn't just leave the family, she reclaimed a piece of herself that he could never touch again. Spells. And in the middle of all of it, Meri was quiet. No tell-all interviews, no dramatic social media posts, no drama, just peace. And sometimes, silence is the most powerful statement of all. When control slips away, some people reflect, others rage, and we're all watching to see which path Kody chooses. Thanks for diving deep with me today, besties. It's been a long journey for Meri, and seeing her find her peace is what it's all about. What do you think about her quiet exit? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown. See you soon. Hey besties, welcome back. So, we left off with Kody's world starting to unravel. Remember how he always saw himself as the family's shepherd, the one everyone owed allegiance to? Well, this is where that mask finally cracks and the breakdown truly begins. It all started small, right? Snappy comments, passive-aggressive interviews, blaming everyone but himself. But then, the cracks really started to show on camera. There was that moment he slammed his hand on the table during a confessional, shouting, "I've been betrayed by everyone, every single one of them." The producer tried to calm him down, but Kody's voice only grew louder. Christine leaves, Janelle follows, and now Meri. Where's loyalty going? For years, Kody had constructed his whole sense of self on control. He believed he was the one holding everything together. But when you build your power on fear, losing control means you're literally losing air. Back at the Flagstaff house, he was pacing the living room, ranting about how no one respected the covenant anymore. Robin sat quietly, her eyes wide, trying not to say the wrong thing. She could tell she wanted to help, but even she looked tired. Kody went on, "Meri's making a mistake. She realized it soon enough. They all will." But here's the truth. The only one who didn't realize anything was him. Meri, meanwhile, was miles away, emotionally and physically. She was in Utah, setting up her new business plans, reconnecting with old friends, even smiling in photos again, and fans noticed. Every post she made felt lighter, freer, the comments section filled with support. "You look peaceful, Meri. This is the glub we've been waiting for." While in Arizona, Kody's interviews grew increasingly dark. He began rewriting history, mumbling things like, "Meri was never really invested, and I did everything I could. But we all knew better." We'd witnessed the years of emotional estrangement, the way he wrote her off, the way he constantly spoke about her, never to her. And that's when the meltdown escalated into something deeper, denial. Because taking responsibility would mean admitting that he wasn't the hero of his own narrative. By the end of that week, even the TLC editors appeared to feel the change. The now deflated patriarch looked like a man speaking to specters defending a kingdom that had dissolved. And while Kody collapsed on tape, Meri silently constructed something out of it. Because sometimes the best revenge is to rebuild without uttering a word. After all the years of stress, of hoping Kody would change, of turning off her own heart just to maintain the harmony, Meri finally did something truly unconventional. She chose herself. What did she do first? She filled up her car and drove back home to Utah. No dramatic farewell. No elaborate speech, only silence, the kind of silence that is louder than any fight could ever be. When she walked into her bed and breakfast, Lizzie's Heritage Inn, something in the air was different. She later explained, "It felt like I could breathe again." Hi besties, welcome back. This is where Meri's own story begins. Not as Kody's wife, not as the scapegoat of the Brown family, but as Meri, the woman who finally freed herself from her own shackles. She set to work restoring the old in herself, painting rooms, replacing furniture, and taking small behind-the-scenes videos for social media. Her fans, they went crazy. They commented, "Meri, this is your time. No more crying, just victory." For the very first time, she wasn't censoring herself for Kody's sake. No tiptoeing around, no artificial smiles. Every laugh now was genuine. Her friend Jen visited, assisting her in organizing new activities, women's retreats, empowerment weekends, and what they termed as the Reclaiming Series. It wasn't about gossip, it was about growth. When Meri was asked by Jen how it felt to be free, she smiled and replied, "It's weird. I don't even miss him. I miss who I thought he was." That line, it broke the internet. Clips of it spread across TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. People who'd never even watched Sister Wives were suddenly inspired by Meri's courage. Meanwhile, back in Flagstaff, Kody saw the same clips. He reportedly told a friend, "She's just doing it for attention." But the truth, the woman he once ignored now had a louder voice than he ever did. Meri began partnering with charities, speaking at women's conferences, and using her platform to speak on breaking free from emotional abuse. Every speech struck harder than the previous one. "Sometimes strength is walking away," she said. "Sometimes healing begins when you stop waiting for an apology." Her message was on just for Kody. It was for every individual who ever lingered too long in a toxic situation. And as Meri's light grew brighter, so did Kody's rage. But this time, she didn't blink. Not even once. Because Meri wasn't battling Kody anymore. She was battling for her serenity, and she was succeeding. When control turns loose, fear follows. And for Kody Brown, that fear morphed into something much uglier. Jealousy. Hey besties, welcome back. At this point in the tale, Meri was radiant. Every post, every appearance, every smile seemed effortless. And Kody, he couldn't handle it. Behind the scenes, crew members saw the entire dynamic change. The same man who had long boasted of his unbreakable family was now obsessed with watching what Meri was doing without him. A production insider reportedly said, Kody started asking if Meri was seeing anyone, if she was talking to other networks. That paranoia became his new addiction. Every time Meri posted a photo with friends, Kody called it a performance. Every time she mentioned peace, he called it an act. But here's what really hurt him. Meri's peace wasn't fake, it was freedom. And that freedom didn't need his approval. One night, during filming, Kody had a moment that even editors couldn't clean up. He said, "Meri's trying to destroy the family name." But the irony was brutal. The family name was already in ruins. Not because Meri left, but because Kody never held it together. There were whispers that Kody tried reaching out off camera, not to apologize, but to take back power. He told a common friend, "She's still one of my wives, whether she wants to be or not." But this time, Meri didn't pick up the phone. Instead, she took a photo with the caption, "Sometimes silence is the loudest boundary you can set." Fans went crazy. They filled her comments with admiration. "Queen behavior. This is how you take your power back." Meanwhile, the more Meri empowered herself, the more Kody crashed. Even Robin, his final support system, started to distance herself. In one episode, she muttered softly, "He's angry all the time. I don't know him anymore." To Kody, control had been his shield. Now, with it lost, nothing was left but insecurity. He began to rage against producers, refusing to shoot certain scenes. Here, accused Meri of turning people against him. But the reality, Kody was doing that on his own. As Kody's world constricted, Meri's expanded. She was now working with top content creators, podcasting, and having empowerment lives. Her message was evident: you are not obligated to remain where you are disrespected. That line went viral on all platforms, and the man who had ruled the narrative suddenly found himself cast as the villain in everyone's eyes. Kody attempted to salvage what was left of his dignity with one final desperate interview, proclaiming, "I still love her. I always will." Fans weren't fooled. Love doesn't have a controlling face. And Meri, she wasn't returning. Not this time. There's a time when all the secrets burst open, when all the masks at last slip. And for Sister Wives viewers watching the world, that time was now. Hi besties, hi again. Fans weren't merely feeling sorry for Meri by now. They were seeing the pattern. All the clips, all the reruns, suddenly all seemed different in retrospect. Viewers were making connections. The way Kody was dismissive of her in front of others. The way her views were disregarded. The years she spent being blamed for everything that went wrong. And then came the viral edit. A fan-made montage titled, Meri's Breaking Point. It showed every time she was silenced. Every time her smile faded, and finally ended with her walking away in Utah sunlight. Wow, what a journey for Meri. It just goes to show that sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is walking away and choosing yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to me. See you next time, besties. That video hit 2 million views in just a few days. Even mainstream media outlets started picking it up. Headlines read, Meri Brown's rebirth becomes a symbol of strength, and the moment Sister Wives fans have waited 15 years to see. And the best part, Meri didn't chase the spotlight, it chased her. She started getting invitations to talk shows, women's forums, and wellness retreats. She spoke about self-esteem, setting boundaries, and emotional healing, not revenge, not scandal, but redemption. For the first time ever in reality TV, fans weren't watching for the chaos, they were tuning in for the closure. Meanwhile, Kody's on-camera behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. Every time he tried to defend himself, the internet clapped back with receipts. Clips, quotes, interviews, it all came flooding back. On one fan thread, someone posted, he wanted obedience. She gave him loyalty. He gave her nothing in return. That single comment went viral and it hurt because it was true. Kody's image began to crumble. His once loyal fans started jumping ship, saying things like, I used to have sympathy for him. Now I realize the manipulation. And all along, Meri remained silent. No public disses, no dramatic blog posts. Just consistency proving that peace is louder than pain. Then, something amazing happened. During a Sister Wives reunion special, the host asked Kody outright, do you regret the way you treated Meri? There was a long, awkward silence. He looked at the ground, then tried to laugh it off. I did my best, he said. The audience's reaction, cold, unimpressed. And then the camera cut to Meri Brown, composed, glowing. She didn't fight, she didn't defend herself. She just said, sometimes your best isn't good enough when it costs someone else their peace. That line shook the internet. It became one of the most watched moments in Sister Wives history. TikTok's memes, reaction videos, everyone was quoting her. Because it wasn't just about Meri anymore, it was about every person who's ever been told to stay quiet and be nice. For the first time, the world saw the truth. Meri Brown wasn't the villain. She was the survivor who outgrew her own story. When you hold the narrative for years, you think no one will ever challenge it. But when the truth finally breaks open, it's irreversible. Hey besties, welcome back. At this point, Meri was thriving new business ventures, a new sense of calm, and a new authority. And Kody, too. He was finally being held accountable for his actions. Once that reunion aired, something shifted. The comments on TLC's official pages were savage. Viewers weren't holding back anymore. They called out Kody directly with a flood of messages like, you broke every woman you claimed to love. We watched gaslighting in real time, and Meri deserved better and she finally got it. The hashtags #team MERI and #FreeTheWives trended everywhere. Even old fans who had defended Kody in the past were deleting their posts, saying they couldn't support him anymore. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed that TLC was getting nervous. They had built the show around Kody's persona, the assertive patriarch, the guy trying to guide his family through faith and harmony. Now, that persona was in tatters. Sponsorships quietly pulled out, merchandise sales plummeted, and social media sentiment 90% negative. Kody tried to fight back the only way he knew how, by talking louder. He did interviews complaining about the media, about the editing, about his bitter exes. But every time he spoke, the internet fact-checked him within minutes. One viewer shared a side-by-side clip, Kody in 2015 saying, "Meri is my spiritual rock," and Kody in 2024 saying, "Meri was never really there for me." The caption read, "When lies have a longer shelf life than love." That clip alone reached 10 million views. Even Robyn started to distance herself. In one tearful confessional, she said, "He's mad all the time. I don't know how to connect with him anymore." And that's when Kody's worst nightmare came. True, he wasn't just losing his wives, he was losing his fans. The man who used to dominate the spotlight was now being edited out of his own show. Fewer solo scenes, less control over his story. He was becoming a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Meri's fan count skyrocketed past his brand was taking off like never before. Partnerships, podcasts, guest appearances. She was becoming a voice for empowerment. And in a poetic twist, TLC's own analytics showed what fans were watching most: not Kody's interviews, not Robyn's tears, but Meri's moments of peace. Because peace, after all that chaos, was the real storyline people connected with. As the weeks passed, Kody went quiet on social media. No new videos, no updates, just silence. Some said he was finally understanding the truth, that his power was unstolen, it was never his to begin with. The viewers saw it, the wives saw it. Even Kody couldn't avoid it anymore. Because you can't build an empire on control and expect it to thrive on freedom. Hi besties, this is it. The end of an era and the beginning of something Kody never saw coming. The final episode opened with Meri alone, standing at Coyote Pass, the same land that once symbolized his dream, not hers. The wind was wild, the mountains were quiet. She looked out across the dry field and whispered something the mic barely caught. "I am done waiting," and that was it. No tears, no breakdown, just resolve. Cut to Kody sitting in his car, staring out the window. The producers asked, "Do you think she'll come back?" He laughed, but it cracked halfway through. "She always does," he said, but you could tell deep down, he knew. This time, she wouldn't. Plow. The camera cuts back to Meri. She walks over to her car, opens the door, and places her old wedding ring on the dashboard. Then she whispers softly, "This isn't loss, this is release." Audiences everywhere were stunned. Some wept, some grinned, but everyone felt that shiver the moment. You know she wasn't shattering anymore, she was becoming. Kody tried to reconnect with her later. He left a voicemail. You could hear it in his tone, the remorse, the desperation, the shock. We can communicate. Meri. We don't have to be finished like this. But she never called him back. Instead, that evening, she went live on Instagram not to talk about him, but to thank her supporters for standing by her through every storm. And just when fans thought she was done, Meri leaned forward, looked directly into the camera, and said, "To anyone still waiting for someone to change, don't change yourself instead." The stream ended. The comments erupted. Millions watched that video over and over. Because it wasn't just Meri talking to Kody, it was Meri talking to every person who ever gave one too many chances. Days later, Kody was spotted alone at Coyote Pass. No cameras, no crew, just him looking out at the empty landscape. People who passed by said he looked lost, like a man standing in the ruins of his own empire. And then Meri posted the final photo. It was a close-up of her hand, no ring, no long message, just 3 words on the edge of the image. Finally, my turn. That was all. No names, no explanation. But every single person watching knew who it was for. The internet melted down. Comment sections filled with posts like, "This is what healing looks like, he never saw it coming," and "The Queen has spoken." Because in the end, Meri didn't break Kody. She outgrew him. And that's the truth. Kody can't escape. Not in interviews. Not in the edit. Not even in his own mirror. The power struggle failed. The control crumbled. And the one woman he underestimated was finally free, while he was left behind. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.